Hey guys, my name is LaQuinta, and this is my story of how I've overcame. Well, I want to say I overcame abandonment. A lot of you know me personally know that I was adopted, and I just want to share just kind of how it got to that point, and leading up and after. So how it kind of happened is I was about 8 or 9, and I was kind of staying with my great aunt on weekends and weekdays, and just kind of staying with her or whatever. Never thought nothing of it. I was just going over there to be going over there. And then my biological mom at that time was just on drugs, just doing a whole bunch of different things, in her life, and different things that were going on in the household. As a kid, you don't realize what's going on in the household. You just realize, okay, people are running in and out, and you don't even know these people. But while we were there, one day we were asleep, and we woke up to the sheriff coming and beating on the door. The sheriff comes and beat on the door, and he was like, y'all gotta leave. Y'all basically getting evicted. And at that time, we kids, we don't know really what that means. And we just saw them taking our clothes and throwing them on the front lawn. I don't know if anybody ever experienced that. I know I didn't see it in a movie, but it's different when it kind of happened in real life. So it was just stuff thrown out on the lawn, our, blankets, sheets, covers, just everything thrown out on the lawn. And they was like, y'all have to go somewhere. And so my mom looked at us and was like, look, I can't really take care of y'all no more. It's nothing that I can really do to explain it to y'all. I just can't take care of it anymore. So I just basically went to one of her friends' house. Me and my brother, we went to one of her friends' house, and we were there. And my great aunt's daughter, Aunt Amy, she came and she was like, I've been looking for you all over. You need to come with me. You need to come with me. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm the oldest. I can't leave my brother behind. Like, I know that he ain't got no place to go. If my mom is sleeping on the stairs or whatever she's doing, we got to go together. And she looked at me and was like, honestly, I can't take care of both of y'all. So we got to figure out somewhere for your brother to go. So at that time, we were driving, and I remembered my uncle, and I was like, oh, my uncle and him was always so close. So dropped my brother off at my uncle's house, and then I went on with her. And as I lived with her, things with my great aunt and her daughter, things happened. My great aunt ended up passing away, and I ended up staying with her youngest daughter. And at that time, she was in her early 20s, so she wanted to kind of live her life and do things that she wanted to do, and things that she wanted to experience or whatever. So I remember just us being pretty much homeless, like staying in different hotels, staying in different church member houses, and just doing different stuff or whatever. And she just kind of couldn't really take care of me either. And so after that, I kind of went into I think it was her older sister, and kind of moved in with her. And she had 4 boys. She had 3 boys, and then a bonus child. That's what, people call it these days. And she had 4 boys, and I kind of was the only girl. And that ended up being my stable home. But as you know, things that you think that are stable and think that it's all good now that you're in a comfortable place and you kind of are familiar with your surroundings, you still hold stuff on the inside and different things. So it just kind of played into me just feeling not wanted, of just different things going around, and people not wanting me, and I'm having to move here and do this and do that. So after I kind of got settled, and we're moving around and all this kind of stuff, I kind of got settled into her house, but I still didn't feel welcome. I still didn't feel wanted. I still didn't feel loved and appreciated and valued as a child. I just felt like that I used to say it all the time. I used to feel like I was a piece of trash. And as soon as, they got done using me or whatever, then I was not worth it anymore. So I just kind of, over that time, just kind of stayed to myself. Just my personality began to shine. But I didn't realize that I was hurting myself in the long run, because with all of that and different issues that were going on, I just felt secluded and just felt lonely. And so in school, I would act up because I felt like that was the only way that I can get somebody attention, if I was acting up or being silly or being rude or being disrespectful. And it just kind of made me end up going into these classes where they said I had a learning disability, and different things and things that they labeled me as that I didn't feel like that I was. But I'm like, oh, well, I'm in here now, so you can label me as, couldn't read, dyslexic. You can label me as all you want. I'm in here now. So I just had these teachers that were like, if I did their hair or if I massaged them, because I took cosmetology, if I did all this stuff, then I can pass their class. I never really had to do the work. But then my adopted mom was a teacher of her own, and she started noticing, like, something ain't right. Like, you ain't bringing no homework home. You ain't doing nothing. And she just happened to show up at school one day. And the crazy thing about it is she happened to show up on the day that I thought I was cute. And some of y'all have heard me tell you this testimony before, but it's the truth. She thought I was cute. I had my little skirt on and my little snakeskin boots, and I was just walking around cute. And my friend walked up to me and she was like, LaQuinta, ain't that your mama behind you? I'm like, girl, that ain't my mama, stop playing. And she was like, LaQuinta, your mama behind you. And I turned around, and when I turned around, she was there, and she just shook her head. And I already knew. And because she wanted me to be a young lady and dress like a young lady, and she knew that when I went to school when I went to school that morning, that was not what I had on. And so she just shook her head and she walked off. And from my understanding, she had a meeting with my teachers to discuss what they were doing with me and how they were doing it or whatever. And I go home, and as I go home, she's there, and she normally don't get home until about 6 or 6:30. So I'm looking like, what is she doing here? But I knew she knew what I had on, but I had changed clothes again. Like, oh my gosh, she had forgot like what I had on. So she looks at me and she said, where's that mini skirt you had on earlier? And I was like, oh, it's at Sharonda's cousin mama house. And she was like, oh, okay, well, we can go. Where's she at? We can go. And she was like, I know you got the skirt. Give me the skirt. And I was like, no, I'm not giving you the skirt. She was like, give me the skirt. I was like, I bought this for Forever 21. I didn't want to give her the skirt. But I gave her the skirt. And she was like, you know what this is? And I was like, it's a skirt. What do you mean? And she was like, this is a rag. She was like, if you felt like trash or things are happening or whatever, that don't mean you have to dress like it. And in my house, we don't dress like this. We dress like young ladies. We dress like we respect and love ourselves. And at that time, I didn't understand what that meant. But needless to say, she made me cut it up and clean the toilet with it. And after that, I didn't realize it until a couple of years had passed, and I had a daughter on my own, of what that meant, of how young ladies are supposed to carry themselves professionally, how they're supposed to love themselves. At that time, I didn't know what love is, so I felt like I had to show everybody everything to get some kind of attention or to get some kind of reaction out of somebody. So if I wasn't doing something, I would, I didn't get that reaction, or I didn't feel loved, or I didn't feel wanted if I didn't get any reaction out of different people. So it just kind of learned into, when you have children and when you have different things that come along, it's amazing how God will change your perspective and how you look at stuff differently. And after I had my daughter, I just kind of looked at kind of stuff differently. And it was just kind of weird of how God moved that situation, because even in the bad relationship of having my daughter, you know how we got to tell God what we want. So when I got pregnant, I told God that I want a boy, I want a boy, I want a boy, I want a boy. And God, clear as day, talked to me and was like, I'm not giving you a boy. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, I'm going to give you a girl to teach her what not to go through. And I was like, mind blown. I'm like, God, Why would you give me a girl? And he was like, I'm going to teach you. You teach her what not to go through, because you have the key to unlock and lock some doors in your life. And at that time, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that included, but I was in a relationship where all he did was cheat. I was in a relationship where he stole my car and threatened to blow us up. I was in a relationship where he was just had guns in my house and had all kinds of stuff in my house. And God has maneuvered and started showing me surely you need to get out of this relationship. This is not the relationship that you need to be in. This is not the relationship that I required you to be in. And I was just like, no, but you don't understand. I can fix them. But let me hear, we can't fix nobody that don't want to be fixed. We can't. And I wanted to be able to fix them, because I'm a person that fixes people. Even though that I'm broken in the inside, I can fix everybody else. And that's just what I thought of and how I was. And God gave me a beautiful daughter, and her name is Eden. And I just kind of contemplated on naming her Eden, because I'm like, I really don't know why should I or whatever. And God just kind of spoke to me again, and he was like, Eden is your new beginning. And I was like, wow, God, wow. And her middle name is Grace, because with some new beginnings, you need grace, because you're not going to make it all the way through and all the time. You need grace. And so I was like, okay. And so God was like, I need you to be able to teach her what not to go through and allow people to treat her any kind of way. And don't allow any anger or bitterness that has set up in you from your past move into her. And I didn't understand that. And of course, it took time. It took different relationships. It took different mother figures. I was lacking a mother figure, but God has been so awesome, where he has put people into my life and into my place and into my atmosphere that I have took a little piece of what the mother I didn't have to create the mother that I needed. And I just didn't do it. God did it. The same thing with the father figure. He created and did stuff to people and gave me little nuggets and said this and did that and just put them together at the right place at the right time. Because I used to be a handful. I used to be the type of person that I was going to hurt you before you hurt me. I was going to say whatever I had to say and do whatever I had to do, because once I was done, what you said and what you did didn't matter. It didn't matter. It wasn't an option for me. It was like, I say what I had to say. It didn't matter if you was in the church house, out of the church house, no matter what you were. I was going to say what I had to say and move on. But I didn't realize that I was doing that out of anger and other stuff that was going on that I didn't want to admit or to be able to express. And I had my pastor's wife come into my life, and she just came in and she was like, look, something is going on. We need to get to the root of the problem. And I was like, I ain't got no problem. She was like, yes, you do. And I remember she asked if we can have a meeting. And I'm like, no, we can't have a meeting. And so I called my godmom, and she was like, do you know what she want to talk about? I'm like, no, I don't want to know what she's talking about. She was like, no, LaQuinta, you got to tell me. We in this together. Tell me what she wants to talk about. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And remind you, I am sitting on the front row at church, going to church every Sunday, reading my word, and she knew something was wrong. I don't know what happened and what transpired, but she knew. And she came and we had that meeting, and she looked at me and she said, clear as day, are you having sex? It's like, no, I'm not having sex. What are you talking about? And she was like, LaQuinta, are you having sex? And I was like, no. And she was like, God gave me a dream, and you are about to come pregnant, or you are already pregnant with your second child. And I just kind of took a deep breath. And at that moment, she started praying and intercession and just kind of praying over me. And I was like, yeah, I'm having sex. And what? And I was like, why do you care? Why do you care? Why do you care so much about what I'm doing about my life? And she just kind of explained to me, she was like, you're doing this because you hurt. You're not doing this because this is the right thing, or this is what you want to do, or this is what you need to do. You're doing this as a way to cover up your hurt. And she was able to reveal that to me like nobody else ever did in my life. Because people these days call it a savage. I was like that. Like, look, I only need you for one thing. Don't call me no more. Don't text me no more. Deuces, bye. I don't want to see you until I call you again. Like, I know you got a wife at home. I know you got 2-3 different baby mamas. Like, that's how my mentality was. And she was like, is that what you think you worth? Like, you're not worth to have a family. You're not worth to be able to have somebody to love and respect and cherish you. You're not worth that. And in my head, I didn't think I was, because I didn't come from that. I didn't come from that. So of course I didn't think that I was worth that. I didn't think that I was worth to be loved and cherished and stood up for and taken care of. I'm so sorry, you guys. I didn't think that. And she was like, you are worth way more than you think that you are. And so she gave me a challenge, and she was like, 6 months to a year, I need you to don't mess with nobody. Just pray and ask God what he wants from you. Get in his word, get to know him. And I'm like, oh my God, here you go with the church stuff again. You know, I was just frustrated with it, because I'm like, it's a lot of judgmental people in church. And some of the people that are in church not for the right reason. They're in church to try to see who they can manipulate, who they can hurt, and who's going to allow them to be manipulated to or used. And some people are there for the right reason. And I was the type of person that if I know that you was fake, I'm going to call you out and let you know that you were fake. But then I had to realize that, God, what are they going through? What are they hurting? And what has put them in a predicament where they feel like they have to be like this? They didn't just get like this. So God had put something on my heart to be sympathetic and kind of forgiving. So over time, I just kind of learned how to be able not to be so, people call it aggressive and more loving and compassion. But it took time. And after all of that and just following directions of my pastor's wife, I just kind of focused and buckled down and did what she told me to do. And after that, I was driving down the street one day, and I happened to look over to my left at a stop sign, and it was a dude that I dated in high school. We went to prom together, and we was just together, and I dated him for like 4.5 years. And I looked over, and sure enough, he was driving the same truck that he was driving when we were in high school, and he took me to prom. And I was like, there's no way it could be him. And it was him. And we got out the car, and we just started talking, and it's just like, we didn't lose connection. We didn't lose each other's interests or each other's love. And we just kind of hit it off from there and started off as friends and started off as talking. And for like a year, we just dated. And then he asked me to marry him. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm not marriage material. I'm not wife material. I don't even know how to be a wife. And I definitely didn't want any more kids, but end up having a son out of everything. So I just came on to be able to share my story and to be able to tell you guys that it is possible. You can find someone to love you. You can find someone that is patient and that is kind and that is quick to forgive. If God can do it for me, I know that he can do it for you. And this is my story of how I overcame.